Hello and welcome to our show. My name is Janara. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and the name of our show is Chronic Ailments and Scientific Nutrition. And the purpose of this show is to bring you natural solutions based on science and nutrition, lab analysis, and ways to encourage the body to heal itself. I have a practice in San Rafael, but I love doing these TV shows because we can give you some information that you may not always hear about in your average looking for nutritional answers. So the idea of this show is, and the goal of natural medicine, I should say, is to use the wonderful combination of science and natural nutrition, dietary solutions to bring the body to health. So we do that by combining labs, the nutrition, and supplements, nutraceuticals and natural supplements to help the body repair itself, basically. And we're going to talk a lot about that today because the title of our show today is Your True Age, and that's cellular health. We've been talking about a lot of cellular healing issues on my past shows, and we're going to get down to a little bit of a nitty-gritty as to why we really want to do this, because how we age and how we feel is really what most of us care about the most. And we don't live in the same world as our grandparents did. We live in a toxic environment. I mean, you can run down the street and jog and exercise, but you're still breathing the fumes of cars, and there's more cars on the road than ever. We have toxic waste that dumps into our organic fields from, water coming up in polluted areas and then condensing into clouds and raining down on our food. And we don't have ways to fight this anymore with just diet alone. So we need to know what to do to keep ourselves healthy and to keep ourselves feeling good. So one of the things we focus on this show is, a certain kind of lab testing that's preventative to prevent collateral damage and to show you where you are now so we can find solutions to being healthy. But first, where do we start aging? We start aging at the time we are conceived. The reason I'm going to throw up this little slide here of a chromosome is because it's very important to know that at the end of each one of these chromosomes are little shoes, I call them shoes, and they have little strings on them, and they're called telomeres, okay? And at conception, you have 20,000 of these little guys on each one. And every time your cells replicate, you lose them in the process. And by the time you are born, you're replicating so quickly in your family, in your mom's belly, that you are born with 10,000. Now you've already lost 10,000. And what most people don't know is that we die at 5,000. Okay, so these telomeres are very important in aging, and they start on the chromosome. And we want to know how to protect them. We want to know how to protect ourselves at the cellular level. That's why science is important, and that's why we really love combining science with nutrition now. It's really fun to be a nutritionist these days because we have all this great information. But just to know, you will die when you're down to 5,000 telomeres, okay? And that could be at 30, that could be at 100. And what determines that is how you turn on your genes on a cellular level. What markers get turned on and off due to these environmental toxins and everything that goes with it. And people say to me in my practice, Janara, well, I eat right, I do everything right. So why do I need to be tested? Why do I need supplements? What is it, that makes you say that I need to do this extra stuff when I know I eat my fresh vegetables, I have a good amount of protein, I eat the right amount of fats and oils and good foods, I don't overdo the carbohydrates? Well, good. We're really glad because this is what we talk about all the time. This is the basis of health. But at the same time, look at what we're faced with. Every day in life, what we don't realize is how we are embracing toxins as part of what we do. From the cradle and the flame retardant clothes that we have to mandatorily put on our babies, they're toxic. We all want to look good, and we all love the taste of sugar. We like to clean up our house. We want to be germ-free. We breathe it in the air. We have makeup, and we have plastic bottles, and we have medications. These medications also have toxic bases to them. And hopefully we have livers that are taking care of all this. But our livers are so overtaxed these days that we don't have the same amount of energy for detoxification in the body because the cells are doing so much more. But do we care about that? No, we want to look good, right? So we succumb to these persuasive ads about how to look slim, how to be slim. Chemicals have no calories. Drink Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, or whatever. I don't mean to slam anybody, but basically we got to watch the toxins we put in our body and how we are seduced by the no calorie diets just to fit into clothes and look good, because we have this subliminal or liminal message all the time to look skinny, to look good, to look great, to be in peak condition, and we'll have a better life, we'll have a better love life, we'll have a better, more energy and more friends. But is that really what it is? Because what that does, that dieting and stress, it leads to exhaustion, not only on the outside, but on the inside. So we have these little guys down here called the adrenal glands, and they're, I've said this before, the knight in shining armors in the body. They come to the rescue to you on any times that you have stress, anytime that your hormones, are in fluctuation, anytime your immune system is being challenged, and anytime that you're not eating right, you're trying to provide energy for your body and your nervous system. And so clinically, one of the hallmarks of adrenal fatigue is hypoglycemia. And then what do we do? At those times of day where the adrenals are particularly in charge of things or being overtaxed, 10 and 3 p.m., we're running for the coffee, the sugar, the snack, the thing that gives us that little lift for a moment and then takes us back down to the crash, which becomes a cycle. It's repeated. And in the presence of insulin and decreased cortisol, which is this whole stress syndrome, the blood sugar level drops rapidly, and then we're constantly needing to refuel ourselves. And what we choose to do that with is really important. So where does that start? We tend to think that we can go forever. And we also tend to think that some of the things that we do are healthy, like starting with our breakfast cereal, which is basically 100% sugar. I mean, it's most of us eat sugared cereals, or even if we're eating whole grain cereals, many of them are very, very high on the glycemic scale, which turns to sugar very quickly. But I was doing a little research, and some researchers did some clinical studies, and it's very interesting that a child's first request these days in a grocery store at 24 months, when they can actually say, "Mommy, can I have this? Mommy, can I have that?" is sugared cereals. 47%. First request, sugared breakfast cereals. And I know people in their 40s that are still eating sugared breakfast cereals or breakfast cereals because cereal seems like breakfast. Now, this is a scary thing because we're trained from the cradle now, and advertising is an insidious thing like we were just talking about. And so these studies showed that 47% is sugared cereal with these 24-month-old kids. 30% is snacks and beverages that are associated with snack food. And toys, interestingly enough, is 21%. Now, when I was a kid, we always wanted the toys. The toys were always a thing at the checkout stand, and we'd like, "Mommy, Mommy, can we have toys?" Well, nowadays, it's "Mommy, Mommy, can we have gum? Can we have candy? Can we have sugar?" These are the things that we're looking at, and this is the stuff that we grew up with in later generations. And so this is what tears down the body on a cellular level, and you can't see it. So then you wake up in the morning, and you're 50, 60, or you're in your 60s like me, and you wonder why you don't look the same. Well, it started a long, long time ago on your cellular level. And these toxins and this kind of dietary lifestyle and stress affects the hormone chain. And so the head of the hormone is the hypothalamus in the brain. It controls our sleep, our quality of sleep, how our endocrine system functions. And because the body's first mission is to survive, And to keep you going, hormones are often the first thing that goes, and so we feel badly. And so we kind of give it a little Band-Aid. We get a little blood test, we get some hormone replacement, and we keep on going. But we haven't gotten to the root cause. And so often this even affects the digestive system because everything starts to go down to another level. So we're aging already. We're aging as we go before we see it happening. So on that hormonal level, 3 ways to that dysfunction are these toxins, infections, and then medications that go with infections, poor diet, things that we grab, and hormone surges that keep our adrenal glands constantly in the push mode. Okay, and so susceptible genes, like we were just talking about, those gene markers get turned off and on, and sometimes they get turned on beyond the inflammatory level to the disease level, depending on that set of hereditary genetics you were born with. And the environmental aspects we're talking about now, or your epigenetics, affect that. And those gene markers will turn on, whether you're susceptible to heart disease or diabetes, low blood sugar, hormone issues, these are the things that start to go in the body's attempt to survive. And so that also is cellular inflammation. And that disrupts the hypothalamus and the pituitary and thyroid function, and your decreased hormone receptor function. So their hormones are no longer talking to each other, and it decreases the conversion of T4 to T3. And so we end up having these thyroid problems. So on the cellular level is actually where we age. So your true age is what is going on in the cell. And so that's what we're focusing on today, because this is the key to turning your life around. Most of us need, to know these things in order to give us a little boost, is to maybe take the next step to see what we can really do and to see where we are. And many, many, many of my patients are scared to do that. They want to know that they look good. They go to the hairdresser, they buy nice clothes, they get their faces augmented, anything to look good. But what's going on inside, that might be too scary. But really, it's really what you want to know, is you have to take charge of your health. And so here's a picture of what one of your billions of cells look like in your body. And on the outside is a membrane. And this membrane is a double lipid membrane. And on the outside of each one, there's a little water molecule. Okay, so there's and little channels where nutrients can get in and out. It's very important that this membrane stays healthy for this cell to survive, because nutrients have to get into this cell. And if it can't get into the cell, it can't get to this little guy right here, the mitochondria, which we're going to talk about a little bit, because it's really key to how well you feel, how much energy you have, and what's going on with your health. So this little guy right here, the mitochondria, also has a cellular membrane. And nutrition has to get into that little cellular membrane in order for you to have nutrients, so your body can detoxify itself, your cell can detoxify itself, and you can make good new cells. So diet is very important there. And we saw that picture just a little bit ago of the hypoglycemic crash, and the instant pick-me-up that we want to do with coffee and sugar and carbs. And what that does is make insulin, and insulin is actually the thing that drives energy into the cell, so insulin has its place. But we don't want so much insulin that, running through our cells in our body, in our blood, so that we dry up this outer membrane. It begins to age. It's not repairing itself. It's not getting the fats, the healthy fats, and everything else it needs to stay open and lubricated. So then that craving for sugar increases, and that's where the excess insulin is needed to drive nutrition into the cell. So that's why we get these sugar cravings. That's why we want to know, okay, where am I at? What can I do to prevent this? How can I repair myself? And that's why we want to do the right kind of testing. We're going to talk about that. But first, back to the little mitochondria, because the mitochondrial function plays the key in age-related disorders, and that's most disease, because they do two things. They create the free radical molecules and the byproducts. Free radical molecules as a byproduct of making ATP, and that's what cellular energy is. It's ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and so everything you eat turns to glucose. It drives into the cell by the means of the transport system in that membrane, and then it turns to energy, ATP, and that in turn helps your cell detoxify. It helps you go. That's your energy of life. That is your chi. That is your vital substance, okay? But the mitochondria also produce toxins. And toxins are just a byproduct of the cellular function, just like your body has to eliminate after it eats food, okay? So it eliminates, through the colon and the urine. Your cells have to eliminate, and it uses glutathione and catalase and SODs to do that, so that it can detoxify itself. And then these toxins should be neutralized by antioxidants that you eat in your diet and then moved out. Well, what if you're not getting enough? And what if you haven't gotten enough for a long time? What can you do? What are the things you need to do to supplement? So here's the little mitochondria. Here's a picture of it. This is that little green thing that we just saw in the cell, blown up into a big picture. Here's what it looks in real life, and this little dark rim around here is the membrane. So you have to get your nutrition into the cell, on the cellular membrane, so you have to keep that healthy. You've got to get the rest of that energy into the mitochondria through that membrane, which is the same membrane. That has to be healthy in order for you to make the ATP so that you can detoxify, repair, and be healthy and prevent disease. And that's what healthy aging is all about. So we can also turn back the clock. All we have to do is know what to do to repair. Because as we age, the number of mitochondria and the quality of it decreases. And so older people have less energy and they have less cellular energy. That's where we want to work. Not only on the exterior to make ourselves look good, but on the interior at the cellular level. That's your key. So we live and die at the cellular level, and what can we do? We can really find out what's going on with the right kind of comprehensive testing, preventative lab testing that tells us what we need to do on a healthy nutritional basis. We want to know what we're missing in our diet. We want to know the supplements we need to take, and we need to know what we need to get rid of. And what we need to get rid of, we need to do on a nutritional supplemental level. That is something that drugs and medication can't do for us. All they can do is put a Band-Aid on your symptoms. And what we want to do is turn back the clock. Turning back the clock is the key. So we give the body what we need to give it to heal itself, and we find that out through testing. So all of you have had blood tests out there. Everybody does testing, but why is this different? This is different because it's preventative on how we look at it, how we read it, and how we score it. Most lab tests are based on the scores of healthy people who don't feel well, or sick people who don't feel well, and that they're averaged out. But when you go to the doctor to get a test because you don't feel well, you're already headed on a downhill. So what we want to do is we want to match the results of our testing scores on healthy people's scores. And so that way we avoid the functional lows and the functional highs that normal lab testing show us. And we want to definitely avoid these code blue low and abnormal highs that are on the disease level. We want to know what we compare with at a healthy level and a healthy range. And so the combination of your blood, hair, and urine, we package them together, and we do that very economically for you so that you have a basis to start. We get to know what you look like on a cellular level, because that's where life takes place. Here's a sample of what the blood work looks like. This, by the way, we have 52 different tests that are packaged for you, not 552 My keyboard got away with an extra 5 in there. But it's 52 different tests that give us a picture of what you are looking like on a cellular level in your blood. And what we see right here is a comparison between 2 tests. So this was this patient's first test. And you can see there's lots of reds and some yellows, some whites, which are healthy, and some blue areas, which we call code blue. Red is a red light. This is, we got to stop and pay attention to this issue right now, because we've got to at least get to the cautionary yellow level. And what we're aiming for is the white level. And you can see that a little over 6 months later, this person now is mostly in the healthy white range based on healthy people's scores and based on the results of clinical analysis, bringing the right supplements, because we looked at it in a large computer database that decided what would bring health nutritionally and supplementally to bring this disease level back to a healthy state. So this is the proof. We love to prove nutrition, because we have lots of ways to prove medication, but we don't have a lot of ways to prove nutrition, and this is one of them. Then we package this up with hair analysis, because in this area of the report, we can see what toxic metals are in there and then what we need to do nutritionally to remove those. And down here we can see what minerals that you have deficiencies in, and maybe a little too much of, which also would be toxic. And the reason why we use hair with the blood test is because every little hair follicle is hooked up to an artery, and it's a way of eliminating, just like we eliminate toxins through the skin. So toxins cause stress, they cause inflammation, and that further causes stress, and it's a repeated cycle. So it's a way that our hormones are disrupted as well. And these little toxins, they're so tiny you can't see them, but they get in the cell and they disrupt the very life processes in that cell we showed you a picture of. And they look kind of nasty, these little guys, because they are. And so here's a picture of that membrane we were talking to you about earlier. And there's 3 main solutions to keep this membrane healthy, and that's one is nutrition and diet. It's very, very important to get good fats, the right sugars, and ultimately reduce the inflammation. We get the cellular healing when we do that by having the right supplements and knowing what we need to do by the testing methods, and then true cellular detox. And that can only be done with nutrition and supplements. And so we want to keep these little pathways in and out of the cell open. So your top toxic 5 that you need to avoid, in addition, is these PCBs and dioxins that are also in fish and meat and dairy. We can't stress enough about, we lost the food labeling thing, but we really, really need to try to eat organic or as healthy as possible, because pesticides are in all our commercial foods, and the reason why they're in our fish and their meat is because that's what our fish are swimming in, and our animals are eating, and our dairy products have lead in them, unfortunately, and the poor cows are on the side of the road breathing the same fumes that you are. The plastics, the cosmetics, dental sealants, the lining of metal cans, the halogens found in water, flame retardants, even in your bread, and your amalgam fillings, your pesticides, our beauty products. Almost everywhere we look these days, we have toxic substances. So it's really important to know what they are, to know how to get rid of them, because determining cellular inflammation is the key to preventing breakdown and disease. So another simple test then that we do is a medioxy test, and that tells us the level of urinary malonaldehyde, which tells us lipid peroxidation, big long words, but that tells us how inflamed your cells are and what we can do to fix it. And that's a quick little test in our office. And we really, really love the idea nowadays that we can use natural dietary means, natural supplements with science, so we can find out really what's going on inside of us long before it shows up on the outside, before we get into our 60s like me, and we're trying to feel like we're 40 again, the natural way. And we don't want to use drugs, and we don't want meds, as a Band-Aid. We really want health on a cellular level for that energy. And the way we do it is to find out how to prevent it from starting in the first place in the cells, so your lab work can tell us that. And it can also tell us if you have a toxic issue. And the toxins in your cells, they need to be released. We need to have cellular repair. And this is truly how we prevent aging. And we can turn back the clock by healthy lifestyle, through the right supplements, by finding out what's going on scientifically in our body on a cellular level with blood, hair, urine analysis. And it's great to live in a modern world. We have greater issues now that we need to deal with, but we have the tools. And we can package these tools in an economical way so that you can take the right steps. My name is Janara Iman. I have a practice in San Rafael. My phone number is 415-496-5205. This show airs on Saturdays on Channel 26 at 2:30, and my website is vitalnaturalhealthsolutions.com. I want to give special thanks for the people who helped put this show on, the Community Media Center of Marin, and the crew, Vita Flores and Brad Flaherty, and the rest of the crew who volunteered their time to make us able to bring this information to you. And for that, we appreciate it. I hope that this show helps, and if you have any questions whatsoever, we're happy to talk to you on the phone. I'm available, and I can answer any questions live, or you can visit my website. Thank you very much. May you be in good health.